Hello world and everybody in the Google group. Today is the second objective complete fluff video. So today the adventure continues. So let's get the map up on this side and let's begin. So heading towards the dark forest of Carsack, Cliff scuffed his hooves along the ground of the grassy plains, kicking up puffs of coffee-coloured dust. The day was overcast, which made it feel ominous and gloomy. Deep in thought, Clyde was thinking about how he hated all sorcerers, and what a waste of good oxygen they were. Elvira bent forward and put her arms around Clyde's warm neck, not quite being able to touch her fingertips together, and snuggled into his warm, hay-scented mane. "I can hear the river up ahead. We need to start looking for the bridge," Bob said. Spotting it in the distance, Elvira pointed to it as they came over a rise. Instead of following the road, they had spotted a trail of foul-smelling green slime just off the path, and decided to follow that instead. The trail had led them in a very unorganized ramble over the grasslands, but did head towards the bridge and the forest in the end. Reaching the bridge, which looked like it had not been used in many years, the wooden boards were rotting, with lichen and moss that were growing in the cracks between the boards and on the railings. A small tree was even growing directly out of the boards, on the opposite side of the bridge to a large hole where the rotting boards had given way. The sport beams could be seen through this ragged hole to the frigid grey waters that rushed towards the sea below. The townspeople obviously didn't use the bridge anymore, and as they looked to the foreboding forest on the other side, there was a suggestion as to why. "You'll have to test it, Clyde," Elvira said as she slid down from his back. "You're the heaviest." Clyde gave a huge sigh and looked hard at the bridge and all its flaws. Just as he was about to refuse, he felt a sharp, startling slap on his backside. With a frightened whinny, he raced across the bridge, clattering over the rotten boards and feeling them crumble and give way beneath his hooves. Making it to the other side and heading towards the forest, he stopped dead, skidding on the path and coming to a stop before it entered the trees. He could see why the forest came by its name. You could only see a few trees in before the darkness consumed them all, and it became pitch black. No light made its way through the canopy, not even the path was lit. After seeing the bridge almost give way beneath Clyde, Bob decided to fly across with Elvira. Heading towards the startled-looking unicorn after landing safely on the forest side of the bridge, Elvira put his velvety pink nose in her hands. "I could have died," Clyde sniffed. "But you didn't, my lovely. Besides, you're a unicorn. Luck is always on your side," Elvira said in a stern voice, while getting her knife out of a leather sheath on her belt and heading off to find wood to make a torch. Holding up the torch, Elvira stepped onto the path leading into the dark forest. She held Clyde's horn in her other hand as he had refused to come into the forest, so she had to try and drag him behind her, while Bob pushed and prodded from behind with his spiked wing tips. The path was just wide enough to accommodate his large wings. As long as he flattened them tightly against his sides, being greatly overgrown, it was clear no one had come this way in many moons. The darkness of the forest was only broken by the luminescent glowing of large disc-shaped mushrooms that grew from the trunks of trees. Venomous-looking bright-coloured plants lined the path, also giving off a dull glow, their toxic-looking spines making the going all the harder as the three tried to avoid them. Thick, glistening toxin dripped from these spines. Clyde imagined that just one prick from one of these would mean instant death. Creatures rustled in the undergrowth, off the sides of the track every now and then, but they never got close enough to be seen. There was a strong sense that they were being followed. After what felt like many hours of walking and following the unreliable path through many twists and turns, the trio were surprised when the path opened up into a small clearing. Looking around, Elvira was unnerved to see many skulls impaled on spikes all around the clearing. The skulls belonged to many different creatures. "I don't like this at all," she said, reaching out to touch a greying skull that looked very much like an elf's. "It'll be fine," Bob replied. "It's probably someone trying to scare away poachers from their hunting spot." Shaking his great head and blowing through his nostrils, Clyde did not like it one bit. He was sure they would all die in this dark and terrifying place. The path closed back and again before taking them on a particularly windy track that made it feel terribly like they were just walking in circles. A large clearing could be seen ahead of them as the track opened out again. Shading her eyes as she walked out of the tree cover, Elvira enjoyed the warmth the sun brought to her chilled skin. Suddenly there was an ear-piercing shriek that made all three travellers wince and squeeze their eyes tightly shut. Once they opened them, they looked up to see a woman crouched in the shrubs at the edge of the clearing in front of them. Her hair was wild and faded purple in colour. The dress she was wearing was beautiful. It was a beautiful emerald green, but the hem was torn and soiled. "I'm the witch Felicia, and this is my forest. Leave now, or you will surely regret our meeting," the witch screeched at the trio. But Elvira started before getting cut off by the witch's fury. "Get out, get out, get out, get out!" And she started shooting venomous spells in their direction, which caused the surrounding trees and shrubs to explode around them. So, my travellers have become very lucky because I completed my second objective, and I am obviously going to pass this treacherous battle. So what I'm going to do today is a little bit different from last week, where I just rolled the dice and showed you the outcome. But I was a bit disappointed that my other three outcomes weren't talked about because they were just so cool. So I'm going to read you out the three outcomes, and then I'm going to roll the dice to see which one we get. So if I get a 1 or a 2, Bob defeats the witch by flying above, grabbing her, throwing her against a tree, then bringing his great spiked tail, releasing the needle-sharp quills, to fly through the air to pin the witch to the tree's trunk. The three pass safely with the witch screaming obscenities at their backs. Option 2, which would be if I got a 3 or a 4, Elvira defeats the witch by rushing at her, screaming obscenities, clotheslining her to the ground, then body slamming her 3 times before finally breaking her nose with an elbow to the face. The witch retreats back to her lair, limping and covered in blood, and the 3 pass safely. Option 3, which is a 5 or a 6, Clyde defeats the witch by backing her into a rock wall and forcing her to listen to his sad outlook on life. The witch covers her ears, begs for mercy, then curls up into the fetal position and starts sucking her thumb, and the 3 are able to pass safely. So let's go roll the dice to see which option we get. A 3. So a 3 means that Clyde defeats the witch, and by backing her into the corner of the rock wall and forcing her to listen to his sad outlook on life, and they pass safely as she is curled into the fetal position and sucking her thumb. So Clyde's doing well. He has already succeeded twice in saving the group, and so stay tuned for the next installment for Objective 3. Thanks very much for watching. Bye.